Have you ever wished that your backup camera on your RV could actually help you when you're driving and also show you TPMS and simultaneously help declutter everything that's on the dash of your tow vehicle? We have. Welcome back to Miller's in Motion. My name is Ryan, along with my wife, Lauren. We are exploring Texas and beyond in our RV, former full-timers, now part-timers. All right, let's talk a little bit about backup cameras, TPMS, and all the other things that go on your dash for safety purposes when you're towing your RV. Now, I will tell you this right out of the gates. We have tried a lot. We've had a couple different iterations of the Furrion camera backup system, and we currently are running the Halo View BT10 with integrated TPMS. Spoiler, we absolutely love that. Now today we are installing and testing a brand new system. Spoiler, it is a Halo View system. We've absolutely loved our previous model, but whenever we were talking with them and going back and forth on the model, I love the idea of the TPMS being integrated because it eliminated one of the screens on my dash. All right, real quickly, let's just go over everything that's included in the box when you get it. All right, so you actually get quite a bit of things with it, and this is one of the first cameras that we noticed that you get literally everything you could potentially need with the exception of a drill. So let's dive through it one by one in order of importance. So one, the actual mirror unit itself, you get that guy. It does on the back have the ability to just clip right to your existing mirror. There are some aftermarket kits you can get to actually replace your mirror completely if you so choose to. Comes with all of the antennas. The camera itself as well, now it's integrated into a much better little bracket. And then you have the mounting plate and rubber gasket, your 4 or 6, depending on which version you get, TPMS sensors. All of your power cables. So there's a couple of different ways of actually installing this. Both things. One, if you are already wired for like a Furrion camera, you can use this adapter into the back of the camera and it'll plug right into the existing system. Or you can use this and wire directly into it if you need a little bit of extension. In addition, on the back side, you can see that there is also as well another cable. Now, this is your pairing cable. So in case you ever need to move your main unit closer to, say, your TPMS sensors or your camera to pair, you can take this and then just plug this directly into a power source using the USB cable or one of the other cables provided. All right, now you also have a USB-C Type-C cable. This is to power the actual head unit inside your truck or the mirrored unit. And then you also have a 12-volt cigarette lighter style with an actual onboard fuse on-off switch. So either one of those works in your truck, just depending on your installation. Now, it also comes with zip ties, a wrench to put on the locking nuts on your TPMS sensors on your tires, all the appropriate things to work on your screen, stick stuff down, tighten, all those things. It also comes with 2 relays. So depending on the length of your coach and if you've got a lot of interference from side to side, those relays are what continue your TPMS sensors up to your main unit. And they even send you the SR1632 little disc batteries for your sensors. So first impressions, the mirror itself is very similar to the RD10. Again, I like that it's integrated. On the back side there, you can see the little camera kind of sticking off. That will move in and out depending on how it sits on my actual mirror inside the truck. I don't think it's actually touchscreen. I didn't read that it was. So the RD10 was a touchscreen system. This one has some buttons on the bottom. I actually prefer the buttons on the bottom. One, they're super easy to see if you need to do anything like switch to night mode, turn it on or off, pair it, power it on, that kind of stuff. Previously, if you turn your truck on, it just automatically turned on. Then you had to go touch the screen to turn it off. And because it was a touch screen, you got fingerprints all over your mirror. Again, I'm a neat freak. I don't really love that. And so I prefer the standard buttons, but I'm curious, do you prefer buttons or touch screen on something like this that's a mirror? I don't like fingerprints, so I like buttons. What do you like? All right, let's talk a little bit about installation. So there's kind of a series of things that need to happen, and I am full on cheating as a full disclosure. So I'm going to have to talk through some of this because it was previously done, and I'm not 100% sure if it's even going to work. But because we have the BT10 system previously, I believe, and it seems like, that the camera and the TPMS sensors are the exact same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to take the mirror unit, the screen, and see if I can just pair it to my existing camera, simply because then I don't have to worry about uninstalling and reinstalling that whole camera system. I can just kind of operate with what I've already installed, knowing full well that I will have to repair that system. So I will have to be able to get up there. So I have to get a ladder and all that stuff. Now, just so I do talk about it, if you do need to install it, now we actually travel in an Alliance Delta 252RL that has been pre-wired. The way Alliance does it, there's typically a little black round cylindrical insert that's right where that camera is sitting now. You can see the camera up there right underneath those marker lights. That would be, if you're doing some install like that, you would actually pop those out, and then you have wiring back there, and then it is actually individually wired for the camera. I know a lot of other coaches wire it into your lights, and so you'd have to turn your lights on to actually get power to your camera. Either way is perfectly fine, but a lot of coaches are pre-wired now. So for us, all we had to do is essentially pull those wires out, hook everything up. I ensured that it worked, and then I physically drilled in, because there's a backer plate right there for us. And then I drilled the mount with the gasket and everything there, and then sealed it so that it was in good working order for the duration. So again, I'm hoping I can just use that camera. We're about to find out. Okay, so that's going to be the camera installation, or lack of installation. And I have no idea if that's going to work or not, but I'm hoping it does. Let's talk a little bit about how I'm going to more permanently install the actual mirror or screen version into my truck. All right, I'm going to say this. My truck is a mess, so sorry. So a couple of things, and I'm going to actually just pop in here and show you. So this is our Bite Tango unit that we currently use. Now, that will be coming out typically if we're not going anywhere for a while. I actually remove this. It's just suction cupped up. Right beneath it, that's actually our Garmin 895 RV 895 GPS system. So that I've actually more permanently fixated that with power. So it just pops on and off there. And then eventually what will happen is we'll take this down and it'll come up here. And so I'll have this whole space open again for back to my GoPro mount. But I want to wire this a little bit more permanently, but I still want the option of removing it. So for me, what that means is I'm going to run the power cable from here up into the headliner, down this column, behind the dash back here. And then down here, I actually have it wired with this little guy into an existing cigarette lighter. And this just splits it. So this is my Garmin power. I can actually turn that on and off. Same with this side. There's a USB as well as a Type-C. So there's actually two USB Type-A's, a USB Type-C, and then two cigarette lighter style. So I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to wire it, but it'll be one way or the other depending on how this splitter decides to work. So, and once that's all done, I am going to clean my truck up because we are in between trips. We just got back from our little DFW road trip and we're getting ready to head to Nashville. So definitely stay tuned for the future videos because I'll show you more of a long distance haul version of how that camera system's working kind of periodically throughout some of those drive days up to Tennessee. Also, one other note, this is an extender. I do actually think that there's a lot of value in installing something like this depending on how long your trailer is. We're right on the edge, so we have about 50 feet between the back of the camera and where the actual receiver is. I didn't install the extender on the previous unit, and there were some times that it kind of cut in and out, especially in areas that had a lot of traffic and signals. But when we were out on the open road, it worked great. So I'm on the fence of whether or not I'm going to do this. I'm going to hook it up first and see how it goes. But just know that if you're going more than about 35 or 40 feet between the two units, you should probably install this. It's really easy. This cable actually just installs right into the camera where the antenna would. It moves your antenna much closer to the truck so you get a better signal and therefore don't have any potential pixelation or drops. Okay, a couple of quick things to note during the installation process of the camera. Before you ever drill a hole or do any sort of an actual physical installation of the screen or the camera, make sure everything works together. That's what that pairing cable's for. So you plug it into one place. You can plug both the camera and the screen, however you have the screen, whether it's the mirrored version or the screen version. And then you can ensure that they're working together. Out of the box, hypothetically, they'll work together. Now, obviously, I'm going to try and use a different camera. So I'm going to have to actually pair it. Or in the unlikely scenario that yours isn't working right out of the box, then just know that you can also pair them before you ever get into the box. Now, I would tell you, good for the camera, I would wait on the TPMS. Do not pair the TPMS sensors quite yet because you want to know the actual position. If it's like passenger side front tire, passenger side middle if you're a triple axle, rear, that kind of thing. So just focus on the camera and all that stuff at first, and then move on to the TPMS. Also, if you're going to pair them like I am, like you have an existing camera that is compatible, which again, I'm a little 50-50 if this even is compatible, just know you'll have to have an external power source with you as well, because the screen, any version of it, doesn't have an internal battery, so it has to be plugged in. So whether you're installing the TPMS sensors or something like I'm doing, just know you'll have to either run a cable, take a battery bank, whatever, to make sure that you can power up the screen. Eureka! It's kind of hard to tell, and I'm not sure that you can see it, but I was able to pair that camera, so now I don't have to worry quite so much about installing it. So if you are installing it, just know that you are going to need a drill and some other types of things that will allow you to do that. You may have to do a little bit of light wiring if you have an excess amount of wire. We did when we installed this the first time. And so just know that you may have to do that a little bit and kind of clean some things up as you install that camera up there. But it's not a very difficult install. You can absolutely do it. I think it took me about 20 minutes to do the install on that portion. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, now that I'm ensured that the camera is working and everything's kind of hunky-dory there, I'm going to use this as a crime of opportunity because I've already got power out here. I'm going to go ahead and install the TPMS sensors and walk around the unit, because you want your screen or main controller unit to be near the TPMS sensors while you're out there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that just because I'm already out here, and then we're just going to completely move on to the truck and the install of the screen. Also, I made a comment before about how it wasn't touchscreen. It's still touchscreen, but there's also buttons down here, so it's both. Okay, as you can see, I have a TPMS sensor installed. So that's there. We're good to go there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into the actual TPMS feature here, which you can do a couple of ways. We're going to start by clicking that button, and then you're going to come in. So from here, if you're using this particular model or any version, what you're going to do is you're going to click on the little truck and trailer sensor system here, and then it's going to pull this screen up, which is a monitoring system. If you just click anywhere else, it's going to pull all of these other things up. And I'm trying to get to a point where you guys can see the screen, but so once you get to this point here, what you'll want to do is you'll click over here on the icon of the tire you actually want to work on the sensor for, right? And so it's going to pull up this information on the left. This top right one says auto learn, and you're going to come over here and hold it by the sensor. You can see on my left hand there, it kind of says waiting. Okay, so you can do the auto learn feature is one way, which is up here, or you can hit manual ID. If you hit manual ID on the cap of these sensors, there is an actual number. It's that DD037C. You can also manually enter those in right there, and it'll pull it up automatically. And now you can see that there's those two dashes, which means it needs to read still, but it is connected at the moment. While I'm down here on the ground, I will say the auto learn is a very cool feature, but I personally think manual ID goes much faster. So you just specifically tell it which tire it is on the trailer icon, and then you just type in those numbers and letters, hit enter, and then it'll just figure it out. It kind of just does its own thing and finds what it needs to find for you. Again, the auto learn's great, but there's a lot of crouching and hunching and sitting on the ground. This seems to be a little faster. Okay, so another thing, we're kind of working from the back of the trailer to the front of the truck. So the next thing you're going to want to install after you get your camera installed, and possibly before or after you do the TPMS, you'll want to do it at some point, is you will need a relay or two. Again, depending on your coach and your scenario, it comes with 3M VHB tape on the back. So in a couple of alligator clips, they are 12 volt. So you can plug them into pretty much any 12 volt system. For us, what we did is we installed it in our battery box in the front of our travel trailer, and we just clipped these onto the terminals, and then I stuck this to the outside of the battery box. Now I did put it on the back side so that it doesn't get hit with road debris and all of that kind of stuff. You can put these in pass-through storages as well. That would be another great spot if you have like a 12 volt bus bar or something, and then you can run this along the roof and then stick this as far forward as you possibly could in the trailer so that the signal would reach your truck a little bit better. So just know that's next. I've already done that with the old one, so I'm not doing that again. All right, let's move into the truck. Okay, so I'm going to kind of do this in multiple ways. One, I have to run this wire. I am going to elect to use the cigarette lighter version. Again, you don't have to do that. Use whatever application works best for your vehicle. I'm going to run this one simply because that's the better of the two, quite frankly, that I have down there already. So I'm going to run this. before I do that, I'm going to actually install the camera on the mirror and get it just right to where I'm happy, and then ensure that I have enough line to actually make that run. I did on the RD10. I should on this one, but again, don't necessarily make assumptions. Do what you need to do. And just so you see how this actually does install, on the back of the unit, you can see there's those straps, like I said, and then this is a fan for a cooling unit. So those straps come undone at the top, and then you actually press it right up against your mirror, and then those straps go over the back of the mirror. Now you will notice this camera over here on this right side, and if I can put this down, this camera will actually extend out to get past your mirror, and then you can kind of play with it and figure out what's the best direction once you're up there to actually get that installed, which we will have to fully extend that. That kind of just depends on your application. Obviously, I still need to take down the old unit. All right, so we have her up. We still have to run the wire, obviously. And now this is actually my old wire. It's not longer. It's actually shorter than the other one, so I will have to replace that. But I figured it's right there. I might as well use it real quick. But it's right there, so I figured you might as well use it. You can see the backup side of that camera is working. And then that's actually the forward-facing camera. So a couple little features that I haven't talked about yet. One, this is recording, and it comes with an SD card. So it's recording back behind you as well as in front of you. And then you can click on it here and kind of bring up different versions of it. You can invert things. You can do a lot with it. And then if you click again, you can come up here. You can just bring up your forward-facing camera. So now I will say one of the unfortunate downsides of this camera, if you like having a lot of cameras, and I say that side cameras, all that kind of stuff, this only supports 2 channels. So you get your backup camera, and the forward-facing camera is the other one. But for somebody like me, I greatly prefer not having all the stuff on the dash. You can see already how much cleaner that is versus the extra cameras, because I don't really use side cameras all that much to begin with anyway. Right, now it's time for the last portion of the install. So let's now talk a little bit about how we're going to install the actual cord so that this whole thing stays kind of situated right there. So, and it's going to be permanent. We're not going to take this up and down. We're just going to leave it as is. Yes, you can see how I have the mirror there. There is supposed to be some gapping back here so that it can ventilate. But again, I'd rather do that. That way, if something ever goes wrong with the unit, you can just unstrap it and replace it. You don't have to really worry about screwing it in or anything. And if I ever sold the vehicle, then I've got my whole car mirror in there. So like I said, we're going to use the power unit that came with it. We're going to put it right in there in my middle console. So that means we have to run a cable through the headboard, down this column, behind the dash, and then through this area. So I've done it before. We're going to do it again right now. You can now see the wire here. It runs up into the headliner there. It actually runs around the headliner, down that column, behind the dash, through here. That is not it. That's just a power cable. It actually runs underneath here, and then it comes down under there. And then you can see where they plug in right there into that little console. All right, one of the things I wanted to do before I let you go for this video is I actually want to take a drive-away test. I want to see how far away we can actually get and still get a good signal. Now, obviously, the TPMS is going to time out because that doesn't stretch quite as far as the camera itself. So I will say right now I've got 5 bars of signal strength, which is primo. I will also say that I did not install the extender, so the camera and the transmitter are actually on the back of the RV, which is 30 feet long. Also, I drive a 2019 Ford F350 dually. It is 22 feet in length. Now, obviously, the camera is not a full 22 feet. I'm assuming it's about 18 feet. That's what I measured from the tailgate over, plus maybe about a foot of hitch space. So all in all, I'm going to say I'm about 50 feet away from the camera right now. Now, I will also tell you that the TPS just fired up, but what I want to do is I'm going to drive away from the rig. I'm going to actually leave it sitting there and see how far away I can get just to see if the camera does. So I'm going to start by just driving down our driveway. I will say it's a long driveway. So we have about 150 feet to the end of the driveway. So I'm going to start there and see if it cuts out at all at any point during that drive. So like I said, it's a longer driveway. You can see where we're going there. I'm just going to go all the way to the end and see how far away we get before the signal starts to cut out. So I'm down to 2 bars now. So about 1 bar. Hanging on to that last signal. Okay, well, I am at the end of my driveway now. So I'm 150 feet away, so I guess let's take a right and let's see how far it lasts as I go down this road that our house is on. Okay, so, sorry, I had to put my seatbelt on, that's what that beeping was. So I'm probably 300 feet away now. I mean, I'm a pretty significant ways away now. And it's still holding on, and I can still see things moving around. Just lost the TPMS signal, but there I got a couple of bars still. We're still going. Good night. Oh, there we go. Lost it there. All right, so there you have it. That is the kind of install and first initial impressions of the Halo View Byte Tango 10 TPMS integrated into a rear view mirror system. I will say by far right out of the gates, my favorite thing is that now I'm back down to just my TPMS. Previously, when we had the RD10, which was the previous iteration of the camera that's integrated into the mirror, or the screen that's integrated into the mirror, I still had a TPMS sensor that was separate from the Halo View system that I had on my dash as well. So I'm officially down to, this is how my truck looks all the time, regardless if I'm towing or not, which I'm very happy about. So if you are a big fan of that seamless, not having to mess with too many things system, that's it. I'm so far, I'm very happy with it. And if it holds up and performs like every other Halo View product we've had, I'm very happy. Like I said, we are heading out to Tennessee in just a couple of days. And so on some of our drive days, I will talk a little bit about that camera again and see how it performs when we're actually in motion, longer form, and kind of transitioning from one state to the other, and see the long-term how it actually looks like. So make sure and join us next week as we head up to Nashville. We're going for Lauren's birthday. So if you're interested in purchasing a Halo View camera, check out the link just below. And we'll see you next week. Bye, Mom.